guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Because She Was Nice. Late in the day, I'm sitting in a discount hardware store looking around. I stop to look at my phone and a nice old lady walks up and asks where all the staff were. Caught off guard I say, "Up front, I think." She looks away then back at me and says they were just register people and if I knew where she could find tape. I wasn't in a rush, but I was going to just go find someone for her when I thought to myself, what if this were my grandmother? I would want someone to help her out. I asked her what kind of tape she was looking for. Apparently, masking tape. I walked with her over to the paint aisle and she mentions that she needed to tape up her air conditioner. I suggest she should use duct tape instead. She said okay, so we search almost the entire store looking for duct tape before finding it almost 10 feet from where we started. The store was not well organized. She thanks me endlessly and I feel good about my good deed. She goes and checks out. So do I, and as I'm leaving, I see she's walking home. I pull over, as it was rather cold, and offer her a ride. She gladly accepts. She talks the whole way to her place, just a couple of blocks away, telling me how I remind her of her grandson. We pull up to her house but before she gets out, she thanks me again and says, XXX. The confused look on my face makes her explain that she was Polish, and it meant, someone watches over you. She continues to say, no really, I see someone is very proud of you right now. It meant a lot to me as my grandmother passed away not too long ago. I cried the whole way home. The next story is titled You Don't Work Here. I work for a grocery shopping delivery service and spend at least a third of my life in different grocery stores. I usually wear a t-shirt with my company logo and often have customers stop and ask me if I know where they can find certain products. It's not a big deal and I'm glad I can help them. I was working on a Friday and as usual, a customer asks where they can find soy sauce. I point them to aisle 4 when a tiny, elderly customer with a walker asks if I can reach something for her on the top shelf. I retrieve the item and continue shopping my current order. An aisle later, the same woman asks me again for help reaching something. Again, it wasn't a problem. I ended up helping her a few more times and I was heading to checkout when I heard her say, "You don't work here." I explained I work for a grocery delivery company similar to Instacart but no, I'm not a store employee. She apologized profusely and told me she went to tell my manager how helpful I was and he mentioned that I worked for XYZ and not the store. I often get mistaken for an employee and I've lost track of how many times I've had customers get angry with me when I tell them I cannot go back to check for Clorox wipes, Lysol, toilet paper, so this was a pleasant change. The next story is titled The Best Breath I Ever Took. Story time. This is more of an I don't work here anymore story. Hope it fits beer. So I went to my old job today to handle some business, not related to work at all, because they are the closest place I could go to deal with what needed to be done. I walk in and handle my business, chatting with the only ex-coworker I still talk to. My old manager comes out when she hears I am there and greets me in her sickeningly sweet voice that is so fake it hurts. Now, before I share the conversation, here's some backstory. The company provides handouts, flyers and signage for all sales and promotions. However, once my manager found how skilled I am in design, she would have me create personalized promotional materials for our store. Not to toot my own horn too much, but they were quite successful. To make everyone's life easier, I created multiple files that needed extremely simple edits that could be used for just about any occasion, so if I was not in when they were needed, anyone could make the changes. I also made files for personal touches, like thank you to customers for using our services that were made for weddings, birthdays, funerals, etc. All in, I had made roughly 50 files for these uses. They were my personal creations that were in no way tied to the company, and in truth, I believe the company forbade stores from doing such things since they gave us promotional materials approved for use. I was never given any credit for my work, and was even told to my face during my review that netted me a lovely 1% raise, company average was 5%, that my work was nothing that she or someone else couldn't have done so it didn't justify a raise. So here is the conversation as it transpired. Manager will be known as K. K. Hey th3 und 3 sir 3d. Long time no see. Me. Hi. Yes, it's been a while. K. Well, I was gonna call you, but I didn't want to get you in trouble at your new job. I had a question for you. At this point I am rolling my eyes and finally fully turned to face her. K. Remember all those files you made for sales and such? Well, we can't find them on the computer. We wanted to use them for such and such sale. What folder did you put them in? Q. Huge smile under my mask. Me. Well, as I created those files, when I left I deleted everything that was mine from the machine. K. Why would you delete them since we used them all the time? Me. You made it quite clear that my work was unappreciated and nothing I did was special. As you felt that way, I didn't think you needed my files for use since it was apparently something that anyone could do. K. This is a serious problem. You deleted our work files without permission. Me. Actually, I deleted my files. I created every last one of them. Not one was created by the company, nor were they approved for use by anyone higher than you. There is nothing wrong with me deleting anything that was made by ME for my personal use. Besides, there was nothing there that you or anyone else couldn't produce, right? Stunned silence. Me. However, if you want those files, I can give you my designer rate for each one and you can submit them as a store expense. I'll be happy to recreate them for you once I have a paid invoice for the work. You have my number, so let me know. I said so to my coworker and walked out. The breath of fresh air never felt more satisfying as the door closed behind me. The next story is titled Park in My Driveway? Hope you plan to stay the night. This was several years ago when I was living at my parents' house still. I was around 19 at the time. I used to drive an old pickup truck, which I always parked in the street in front of my house as my parents put one car in the garage and the other in driveway on the other side. This way no one was ever blocked in. Our old neighbors used to always have large gatherings of family and friends. Seemed like once a month I would come home and find our street lined with cars all at their house. One weekend, my parents went out of town, which left the driveway open, so I parked in it, because why not? This was on a Saturday. I realized that our neighbors were having people over. No big deal, happens regularly, they are polite and quiet. Their guests will sometimes park close to being in front of our driveway, which is annoying when trying to back out with cars basically surrounding it on all sides. I decided to run and pick myself up some dinner around probably 6 to 7 p.m. I was gone maybe half an hour. When I get back, I noticed that someone was parked right smack in the middle of our driveway. It wasn't just any car though. It was a G-Wagon. I had seen this SUV several times before, usually as one of the cars parked close to the front of our driveway, but this time, they decided to park in our driveway. Could I have gone and asked them to move the car and park elsewhere? Of course, I could have. Did I? No, instead I parked my truck across the entire entrance to the driveway, blocking them in. After a few hours I get a knock at the door. Guess who it is? The car's owner, having the gall to ask me to move my truck so they can leave. I could have moved it, no problem. Instead, I told them as I had already gone and picked up dinner, I had no reason to leave until at least the next afternoon. They asked if I could just move it as they wanted to go home. I told them again, I had no reason to leave, and my truck is really loud and I didn't want to disturb the other neighbors by starting it so late at night, and they were welcome to come back for it tomorrow. I left the truck there until around noon the next day. Not sure how they got home as this was before Uber and there were no taxis in the area, and they were one of the last vehicles to leave the party, but that isn't my problem. Should have thought about that before parking in my driveway. The next story is titled Talking to Someone in Your Own Time? How dare you? This happened yesterday in my local supermarket. The cast. Lol. Lovely old lady, K. Entitled Karen, M. Manager, CE. Confused employee, and of course me as me. I'm a fairly tall guy, 1.97 m, or about 6 feet 5 inches-ish. And I get asked to grab something off a top shelf by someone shorter than me on quite a regular basis, and when I see someone struggling to reach a product, I often offer to help myself. So of course when I saw this little old lady, all stretched out and standing on her toes, trying to reach for a pack of crisps, I asked, "Do you need some help, ma'am?" Lol. "Oh yes dear, if you can grab me 2 packs of those crisps, that would be wonderful." Me. "No problem, here you are," hands her 2 packs of crisps. The lol then starts about how I remind her of her grandson, because he's tall as well, and he also wears those kind of music shirts. I'm wearing a shirt with the skull of the Whispered One, from Critical Role. but I choose not to correct her on that one. We keep chatting for about 5 minutes, and during this time the Karen of this story pops her head in the aisle 2 or 3 times and looks in our general direction. I didn't think anything about it, yet. So after about 5 minutes, the lol thanks me again, and she goes her own way. Time for me to choose what kind of crisps I want. Nope. K, are you finally done talking? I've been waiting for 15 minutes. What do you think your boss would say about wasting 15 minutes talking to a costumer? Me, confused, I'm pretty sure he doesn't care whom I talk to. K, you're trying to tell me he doesn't mind you wasting time? Me, yeah, and even if he would mind, I don't see how it would be any of his business. K, nonsense. Anyway, I need brand X coffee beans. Me, still oblivious to the fact she thinks I'm an employee. As far as I know, all coffee is in the next aisle. I'm sure you'll find it there. K, I know it's in the next aisle, you idiot, but the shelf where it's supposed to be is empty. Me, well, sorry, can't help you then. And I turn around looking at the crisps again. K, that's it. I will have your job for this. It's not until now I realize she thinks I'm an employee there, even though I'm wearing a black shirt with a skull on it, and the employees wear a light blue button-up shirt with a name tag. I wanted to explain to her that I do in fact not work there, and this must be a misunderstanding, but she's already storming off. I continue shopping, and a few minutes later, when I'm standing at the dairy section next to an actual employee who's stocking, I hear her shouting again. K, that one, that's him. M walks to CE next to me and asks him, this lady tells me you've been wasting 15 minutes just making small talk to a customer, and then you refuse to help her. Can you tell me what happened? CE. A. No, that's not true. I did help someone find the grated cheese, but then I went right back to stocking. K. No, not him. The other one, and points at me. M. Looking at me and then to K. Ma'am, this is obviously not an employee here. Me. No, how the duck did you think I was an employee? I obviously don't look like one. K. And now he's swearing at costumers too. You need to fire him. I just facepalm at this moment, then look the manager in the eyes and say, you know what? No need to fire me. I quit effective immediately. I then turn to the CE, who's failing to understand what's going on, and say, it was nice working with you, mate, see you later. And shake his hand. I could see all three trying to figure out what just happened when I walked past them to check out, and I couldn't stop laughing on my 3 minutes walk home. The next story is titled We Don't Go to School Here. When I, male probably 17 at the time, was in high school in South Carolina, I went to Pennsylvania on spring break with my best friend and his family. They was originally from the Allentown area but moved to South Carolina in 1993 when we meet in the 6th grade. He used to always tell me about going to Hershey Park, Eagles games, 76ers games and things like that. 2 weeks before our school's spring break on a weekend when I was at this house, his parents asked me if my parents would let me go back with them to help pack up his grandmother's house due to her going in a nursing home. On the third day, myself and Daniel, best friend, was sitting out on the porch when 2 officers had pulled up. Officer 1. Why are you not in school? Me. We're on spring break. Officer 2. That's not for another 2 weeks. Me. We're not from here, we live in South Carolina. Daniel. Yeah, if you look at the back of my dad's van you'll see it has South Carolina plates. We're just here to pack up my grandmother's house. Officer 1. What school do you go to? Me. School name in South Carolina. Officer 2. What school do you two really go to? Daniel. School name in South Carolina. Officer 2. I believe you to go, local school name, they always have kids ditching school. Daniel. No, we're really from out of town. Me. Yeah, I can show you my driver license and school ID card. Daniel. I can call me dad to come outside if you don't believe us. Daniel opened the door and calls out for his dad, but he's in the shower and doesn't hear him, and his mom left to go to the store down the block with his sister. Officer 1. We're taking you boys to the school. Me. Well then can I drive? Daniel. I wonder if it's lunchtime at the school. As they are putting Daniel and myself in the car, Daniel's dad comes outside. Dad. What are you doing to my boys? Officer 1. Taking them to school. Officer 2. You going to be in trouble for these boys ditching school. Dad. We don't live here. We live in South Carolina. They're on their school's spring break. We're only here for pack up my mother-in-law house cause she is now in a nursing home. If you looked at the plate of my van you would have seen it has South Carolina plates on it. Did you ask the boys for their driver's license or school ID card? At this point I'm in the back of the car. Me. Come on, what's taking so long? I am ready to go to school. I don't want to miss lunch. Daniel. Yeah, come on. I think it's tacos for lunch today and I love tacos. Officer 2. Please step out the car. Me. But what about our taox? Dad. Boy, get out the car. What a day that was. The next story is titled Ex-Boss Called Me to Yell at Me for Not Showing Up to Work. I'm new to Reddit, and I'm a bit tipsy, so be easy on me. I thought this story would be a good fit here. Some backstory and general info. I am female with a somewhat unique name. Yes, this is important. I was 18, I'm 23 now, when I got my first job at a Western wear store, and didn't even work there for a full year. We sold mainly cowboy boots and some clothes and accessories that went along with that general theme. I loved working there, and it was a pretty great first job. There were 2 locations, one in my town, and one in the next state. I stayed at one location in my town, and my boss mostly stayed at the other location because she lived closer to it. She also had an employee who would go in between stores as the boss needed it. At first I thought my boss was a really badass woman. However, that opinion would soon change. You see, she sucked at running a business, and didn't want to keep paying the expensive rent for the building we were currently using, so she moved the store to an obscure location at the beginning of the summer. She admitted that summers were the slowest season, so in my opinion it was not smart to move locations then. She would also avoid regular customers when they would come in to talk to her about their orders taking too long to arrive. I also heard she was a homewrecker, and the guy whose marriage she ruined would come into the store regularly. Needless to say, she was a bad businesswoman who did whatever she wanted. After she moved the store we started losing business. She started scheduling less of us, having maybe 2 employees working at once. Then she told me, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you looked another job. I remember that word for word. Looking back I realized that that was her way of saying, you should probably find another job. Soon we weren't getting scheduled at all. She was running the store by herself and she kept saying, maybe business will pick up next week and I'll need you. Then one day my mom came home and asked if my boss had moved again. I said I didn't know, then asked why. She informed me that she drove by my work and it looked empty. I told my friend and soon she drove by and told me that it was indeed completely deserted. I officially didn't have a job anymore. Thankfully I was working at a barn a few days a week, so I had some kind of income. I did find out that this woman still had her other store open, so I was a little salty. Now, the real story. I was chilling at home a few months after I found out my boss had deserted us when I see that she is calling me. I thought it was weird, and answered. The call started off very friendly and cheerful, but then her idiot side came out. The call went something like this. Me. Hello? Ex-boss. Hi, op? M. Yes? Eb. Hi, this is ex-boss. How are you? M. I'm alright, how are you? Eb. I'm good. Look, I'm calling because, idiotiness, you cannot keep calling out of work like this. M. Completely confused. Excuse me, what? Eb. You keep calling out when you should be here working. I have places I need to be and, ex-coworker, cannot run the store alone. M. I have no idea what you're talking about. Eb. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about, said in a mocking tone. M. No ma'am, I haven't worked for you in months. Eb. Silent for a few seconds, then hangs up. I sat there for a minute processing what just happened. I figure she must have a worker at the other store with the same name as me, and she just called the wrong one. But I have a very uncommon name, so that is unlikely in my opinion. And if it was a mistake, why not just own up to it? Suck it up, and ducking apologize. But instead, like a scared middle schooler, she hands up. It was in this moment I lost what little respect I had left for her. I wish there was a better ending, but there isn't. I never heard from her again. I have looked up her and her other store and turns out she eventually closed that store too, and now she works at an airport. That somewhat makes me happy. Part of me wants to open a store like hers and run it better than she did. We'll see. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.